Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thank you for tuning in. First on the docket, maybe Lori Vallow didn't roll on Chad Daybell. I'll explain why. Second, why people think there are two systems of justice, one for the cops, one for everybody else. Third, Thomas Lane, one of the Minneapolis Four, is out of custody. And finally, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. We ask you all the time, and we would appreciate it if you would do so. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. Hit that little bell so that you receive notifications of when we put up new content or when we go live. And please leave us a comment about what we discussed today. First on the docket, maybe Lori Vallow didn't roll on Chad Daybell. Now, everyone knows over the last 2 days, Chad Daybell had his property searched and was arrested and appeared in court yesterday, and he is now in custody being held on a $1 million bond, basically for tampering with evidence. We talked about it Tuesday night when we went live, and we can put a link to that conversation below so that you can see what we talked about when all that news was breaking. The thing that was most obvious was that the police showed up, and it was like they almost knew exactly where to start digging. And I questioned myself, and I said, how would they have known that? Well, a couple of ways would be, obviously, if a potential co-defendant, potentially Lori Vallow, would have provided evidence to the state, maybe in exchange for a lesser deal. Maybe they were conducting some surveillance, and they were able to observe something going on at the property. But more than likely, somebody had to have spoken, whether it was Lori Vallow, a family member. Someone had to provide information that was credible enough for the police to go to a judge, and the judge believed that this credible enough that this warrant would stand up to any challenges in court and say, go dig. And they knew exactly where to look. Makes me think someone who was involved told them exactly where to go. I even tried to think of ways in which the police could have obtained that information lawfully. For example, through telephone calls between Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell while she was in custody. If they were to make those calls, there's no expectation of privacy, and the prisoners are warned that all calls are being monitored. If someone was on those calls or listened to those calls, there may have been some information provided. But today, and since I always tried to bring you the most updated information and to be factually correct, because we're not in the getting it wrong kind of business, today, Mark Means, the lawyer for Lori Vallow, filed a motion to release to defense counsel. Now, he clearly states in his motion he does not want the affidavit unsealed in any way. He would just simply like a copy of it, only to him, not to the public. So a couple of things come to mind there. Either A, Mark Means and his client had nothing to do with the information that was provided into the search warrant for them to have the judge authorize it, which ultimately led to the discovery of the human remains. Or he's just filing this motion to make it look like he didn't know what to do. From what my experience is of observing Mr. Means, I'm guessing the first one, that he had nothing to do with it. And he's obviously trying to find out, for lack of a better term, what in the hell is going on. I think he's filed it in the wrong case, because this case, as we talked about yesterday, as it relates to Chad Daybell, has a special prosecutor. He needs to be filing that request in the other case, because this district attorney is probably not going to have it. So this case, like I say, literally every day gets more and more bizarre as things go by. Now, the police have not officially come out and identified the human remains, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to use a little common sense. And apparently the family has been told, JJ's grandmother has come out and said that they believe, or have been informed that they believe the remains are that of JJ. One would reasonably assume that the other remains are that of Tylee. Obviously, we'll wait for the official word. However, I think we can exercise a little common sense and good judgment and conclude the same. We'll continue to watch this case, not only Lori Vallow, who has a preliminary hearing coming up, but Chad Daybell, who has a preliminary hearing coming up on July 1 and 2. And I'm sure there'll be lots of news between those two dates. Next on the docket, why people think there's two justice systems, one for cops and one for everyone else. Well, let me give you an example, all right? Case number one. It was a case that took place here in the state of Colorado, city and county of Denver. And in this case, a gentleman by the name of Keith Hammock, he was 49, and he was ultimately convicted after a 5-day trial of second-degree murder, attempted second-degree murder, first-degree assault, deadly weapon, as well as possession of marijuana and cultivation. The facts are that Kevin Hammock woke up and observed a couple of young men in his backyard, where he coincidentally just happened to have a marijuana grow. Anyway, Kevin Mosley, 15, was killed. Another 14-year-old boy was shot and was going to be basically paralyzed from the waist down. Mr. Hammock was charged and ultimately convicted and now serving a sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections. Next case. And obviously, we will give the presumption of innocence to anyone who has only been charged and not convicted or pled guilty. In the second case, Desmond Manning, 46, once again awakes to someone running around in his backyard. Mr. Manning then goes outside, sees that a couple of young men are jumping over the fence, trying to get away. He hits and strikes a young man by the name of Alexis Menendez Perez. Mr. Menendez Perez dies, and another teen runs away as well. Mr. Manning is arrested immediately at the scene for investigation of second-degree murder and then ultimately released. The district attorney, Beth McCann, who was the district attorney for the previous case that we handled, decided to file charges. In this particular case, even though Mr. Manning shot at somebody running away and shoots them in the back, and there's also no stippling on the body of Mr. Mendez Perez, which would indicate that they were in a greater distance of probably about 5 feet. So there probably wasn't a struggle. Well, that's also indicative of being shot in the back, that you were running away. Needless to say, the district attorney, Beth McCann, is not filing charges against Mr. Desmond Manning. Now, you may ask yourself, that sounds like a very similar case. Now, Mr. Manning didn't have a marijuana grow in his backyard, but he did shoot a teen who was fleeing, not attacking, not burglarizing, anything along those lines. What, pray tell, could possibly be the difference? That's right. Mr. Desmond Manning is a police officer. Specifically, he is an officer with the Colorado Department of Corrections, and he is a certified post, which is a Peace Officer Standards and Training Board graduate. He's passed all the tests, and he's full-fledged law enforcement and, in fact, can carry a gun. So you've heard those facts, very similar, and the district attorney, in the case of Mr. Manning, believes that he has a pretty good case of self-defense, and therefore they're not going to pursue charges against Mr. Manning. That'll all take place officially tomorrow, but it really makes you wonder. I wonder why people think there's two sets of justice systems for police officers and everybody else. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. All right, Crime Talk aficionados, a brief recess from the docket to talk about one of our sponsors. And if you go to crimetalksearch.com, that will take you to a background report page. It has my picture on it. You type in a name. You want to do that. If you want to get a background search, you pay for a subscription. It starts at $4.95 a month. There's a couple of different packages, but you can cancel at any time. You can do a background search on anyone, and for that fee, you get unlimited searches. You can find out the truth about, well, anyone. And through People Finder, you can search billions of records that have been compiled over the last 40 years, something that you could not do in your own time. One search, if you use this product once a year, it'd be worth its value just by the amount of time that you would save. There's no trial risk. You can search anonymously. No one's going to know that you're searching them. And you search all public records and you get one easy report. I'm telling you, we have used this product in my law firm and it has saved me a lot of time, and it has saved my clients a lot of money. It's a good way to get a good start for looking for information on individuals. So please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for your subscription. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It's worth the price of one search, and you can do as many searches as you would like. Next on the docket, Thomas Lane, one of the Minneapolis Four, has made bail. That's right. He posted a $750,000 bond with conditions. Basically what that means is he has to be on GPS, can't leave the state without permission, he can't possess or carry a firearm, he cannot act as a police officer or a security guard, no contact with the family whatsoever, but he's out on bond. What significance does that make? I can tell you, if you are a defendant, you like to be able to show up for court and be in a suit, versus the other co-defendants in this particular case who are going to show up and be in their jailhouse uniforms. It makes a difference. It makes your client look like a human being. So whether the family did this or was advice of the attorney, that's good for his attorney. It will make things a little easier, and it humanizes him. Now, the attorney for Mr. Lane tried to humanize Mr. Lane at his bond reduction hearing when he was saying, hey, this guy, although hired back in February of 2019, had really only been a police officer for 4 days. It was only his fourth shift before he had Derek Chauvin as basically the superior officer on the scene and had to, for lack of a better term, follow his follow his lead. And Lane was also the one on the videotape asking if they should turn George Floyd over on his side. It could have made a difference. Now, the attorney for Mr. Lane says, hey, he's a new cop. What's he supposed to do? Not interject? Well, the Minneapolis Police Department policies require every sworn employee present at a scene where physical force is being applied to either stop or attempt to stop another sworn employee when force is being inappropriately applied or is no longer required. So, will that policy come in at trial? Absolutely. Is it easy to say, you must stop your superior officer if you think he's doing something illegal? Sure, easy enough. Is it reality out on the street when you've been on the police force for 4 days and you're still learning and you've got Chauvin showing you how it's done out on the streets? Yeah, probably some mitigation. Mr. Lane probably is not going to go to prison the length of time that Mr. Chauvin will in this particular case, but we shall wait and see. One more quick little recess before we get to our dumb criminal contestant of the day. We have another sponsor here on Crime Talk, and that's the TC1200 Pro Tactical Flashlight. This little gem, look how small it is. This can fit into a purse, a pocket, a glove box. It can fit into Crime Talk One, which it does. It can fit into the car. You can put it on the nightstand. It's going to be there when you need it. Everybody needs a flashlight. It's better to have one and not need it than need it and not have one. Bottom line, go to crimetalksearch.com/1TAC. Take a look at this. Get yourself the TAC 1 flashlight. All right, we're back from our recess. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. And our dumb criminal contestant of the day comes from Milwaukee, Keon Lambert. Mr. Lambert always had a dream, and he was near the Brewers baseball stadium. And according to the criminal complaint, Mr. Lambert entered the stadium on or about June 2nd after finding an unlocked door, and he wandered onto the playing field where the grounds crew were present. He apparently told the police in his statement that he had commandeered a tractor because he had never been on one before and wanted to carve his name into the grass with the tires. Every kid's got to have a dream, right? Well, it didn't end there. The tractor apparently didn't move fast enough for him to get those initials carved into the turf, but he nevertheless was able to drive across the field while raising and lowering the front bucket, damaging the pitcher's mound and digging holes elsewhere on the field. Then Mr. Lambert, not being deterred by witnesses witnessing his criminal conduct, said that he saw workers recording with their phones, so he decided to show off a little bit. Apparently, he also was shouting words to the ground crew such as, "Stay away from him," and this is all what he told the police. Fortunately, the Brewers field only received minor damages, but it's not like they're going to play anymore, or at least maybe not, because they can't resolve their contract dispute, whether they're going to play for 160 games or whatever. So, but Mr. Lambert, you are our dumb criminal contestant of the day. We've all got dreams, but sometimes you have to have realistic dreams. Thanks for watching Crime Talk. We'll talk to you tomorrow.